Welcome to the Life and Listings podcast. I have Sarah here with us today. Hey, Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jen.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't wait. Tell all of our listeners that haven't met you yet who you are, what you do, where you're at, and a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Sarah Cain, I am located in South Central Pennsylvania. I'm the Director of Operations for the True Advantage team. So we're brokered with Real, and it's a very exciting journey, and every day is different, which is like the best part of all of it.
For sure, and I'm sure working with Jack makes part of that too.
Working with Jack, anyone that knows Jack, they gotta love him. He's something else. He's a force to be reckoned with, right?
Yeah, 100%. Sarah and I met, I think, probably about 2 years ago at the Tom Ferry office, actually, when we were there for like an in-person operations mastermind. And we've been friends and masterminded ever since.
Yeah, that was that crazy ice storm in Texas. It was like 20 degrees in February in Dallas. And so Jack and I took 3 different planes to get there to that event. He was to be shooting a podcast with Tom, and then I was invited to be a part of this operations mastermind. I had no idea what I was going into. We literally got ourselves together in the airport and went directly to Tom Ferry's office to do that. And it was incredible. It was one of the coolest real estate experiences I had. And yeah, it was about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. It was cool. And the connections were incredible because that was a room full of powerful business runners, right?
Right. And I feel like we all go to conferences and we go to classes and stuff like that. And it's more often than not geared towards the agents, right? So being in that room was really, really interesting because you're hearing these different minds or perspectives talking about the business. So
yeah, and like so many people truly going through the exact same things that pretty much everybody else is going through. So, there's that core group of like 5 subjects that it seems like every team struggles with. So being able to get in rooms with other people all over the country and seeing what they're doing well. We were just talking about that a little bit ago, that I'm excited to not be the smartest person in the room, and I am so ready to hear what somebody is doing better. I don't need to recreate the wheel. If you're doing it better and successfully, like how can we do this together?
Yeah, absolutely. How many times do you sit there and you're trying to figure something out, or you're watching the tutorials, you're doing all these things, and then you're like, man, there's someone that's already done this, right? Like, how do we figure that out?
Yep. Using those connections. Like you said earlier, real estate is such a big world, but it's such a small world too. And I think it's such a lonely sport that people don't realize the things that they can learn from each other, that collaboration aspect of it. It's way too lacking in this industry.
100%. And, we both come from interesting backgrounds. And this is kind of the topic that we wanted to share, was coming from other industries into the real estate world, into leadership. I want to hear kind of your story and where you came from and like what you got. Did you get stuck on things? Did you feel like that gave you a leg up? What do you think there?
It's a little bit of everything. So I did 9 years as a preschool teacher because I wanted my son to be with me. I mean, my son is 20 years old now, but the first 10 years of his life, I was a preschool teacher. And let me tell you, being a preschool teacher teaches you a ton. If you ever really want to know how to manage people, manage 16 toddlers. Like that's going to help you. And then, from there, I moved into optometry. So like literally sitting at the front desk of an optometrist practice and worked my way up to management, to the point that I was running an office with 4 doctors, 26 staff, the least amount of turnover of all the offices because we really came together and worked as a team. And so managing people, I realized I've been managing people since I was 12 years old, right? You can kind of take all those bits and move that into the next profession. What worked? What didn't work? So yeah, preschool to optometry to real estate. And truly, I kind of stumbled into real estate. I am licensed. I rarely utilize my license outside of, I become the breath of fresh air. So when something's about to fall apart, clients upset because it happens. It doesn't matter how wonderful an agent is. And there's always somebody or something that destined to go wrong. And so I step in and I get to be that outside of the box personality where I can be like, okay, I see client side, I see agent side. How can we come to that solution? Because sometimes when we're down in the weeds, we can't see those outside solutions. So again, it's taking all of those things I've learned from different aspects of life, different occupation, different things, and merging that into real estate. So I became a TC to start. I'm a terrible TC. I'm not meant to sit here and listen to others and manage your paperwork. Like I'm a terrible manager of paperwork. I'm a manager of people. And I stumbled into it. I met Jack. We had a phone call. Literally when we had our phone call about the position, and the optometrist practice was being bought out by a big corporation that I just didn't believe in. I have to believe in something to be able to lead a team to believe in it too. Yeah. So met in person literally after a 5-minute conversation, drove straight to the office, met in person. We were like, okay, something makes sense here. Like had a very similar mindset on how to run business. And I've been fortunate enough to help a few people build their businesses very successfully. So it's cool. It's fun to be in real estate. Houses have nothing to do with it. It's all about the people connections.
Do you feel like coming from other industries and into real estate that you got kind of hung up on the way that things were run? Or like, how did that affect the way that you saw like growing a business?
So what was beautiful is I'm a very strong personality. I came in and Jack's like, for the first 30 days, I just need you to back up, just kind of absorb what's going around you. And I'll be honest, this place was a mess. There were no systems in place. And let's find the best way to do it in the fastest amount of time. So I wrote all the systems for this business. I created all of it. I dug into the tech stack and analyzed every aspect of it because I literally had to train myself in the business because I had no idea about real estate before walking into it. But just as anything else, you build the system and you follow it. And now the beautiful part is I have such a great system in the background that we can plug and play that anywhere. Anybody, any TC we add on, we have an international team, we pull on, new people and they understand the process because I built it, because I never want somebody else to feel how I did coming into something.
That's hard. I mean, that is hard coming into first a new industry. And then there's nothing set up yet. So like, where did you start? Because I mean, there might be people listening that are just overwhelmed and they're like, I haven't even built a system before. Because we all talk about systems and processes and operations. And some people are like, boring, don't want to touch it. But if you're going to come into a business or you're building your own, what's your tip on where to start?
Yeah. So to me, it's finding like, what are the most important steps of that business? What are those money-making steps and how do we get there? Okay, now we need to document those money-making steps. And then it's starting to break down each of those things. So for our teammates, we know getting stuck in the paperwork is not a money-building step for them, right? That's one of the things we offer. We give them the opportunity to kind of step away from that aspect. And I have beautifully trained people that are so good at that part of the business that they can hand those things off. They're face to face with their people, right? So it's finding those, okay, what are those money-making things that we need the steps first? And then what can we delegate? What is the best use of our time? It is not the best use of my time to run across the street to the grocery store to buy chips and soda for a client get-together or a teammate get-together. Think about your business as a business owner and stop being so stuck in it, right? So what's the best use of my time and what can I have somebody else do? That whether they're a paid assistant or whatever it may be, like figure out what we can separate and what we can start delegating. And that's what's going to leverage your time, leverage your business and getting those things in place. And I think sometimes we get a little too stuck in what we're doing. Like I've communicated with a few teams that we partner with and it's like, listen, as a successful real estate professional that does, whatever, maybe they're doing 30, 50, 60 homes themselves a year, you shouldn't be writing the systems, but best believe you can be in the car on your next appointment with your, admin person and they're writing the systems on your behalf. So just thinking about those gaps that you can fill and utilize. You're already going to be driving to that location. You're going to be driving to do that listing appointment or whatever it may be. Have that person by your side that can truly just document everything you're doing and then create that system that is constantly then in use and you can just easily bring somebody else. It's that slow down to speed up a little bit.
I know. I love that because I feel like over the last couple of weeks, because I think the way that the market was everyone kind of slowed down, and then the market's picking up, right? So now everyone's kind of panicking. So I had a client just this week kind of go, my goal was I wanted to sell X amount of homes per year, but I think I'm actually going to cut that in half because I need to work on the business. I do all these things. I'm like, wait. Let's not just cut your production in half. How can we delegate out some stuff so you could sell more houses and make a ton more money? She's like, oh, really? Huh. I'm like, and just like that quick conversation of like, no, let's just stop for a second and let's figure out just like that. Who can we delegate to? Can we systematize any of it? Can we obviously do it at the same time? And then you're going to double your production? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Right?
It is. And our beautiful visionary personalities, they have these great, beautiful ideas, but don't know how to implement it. So finding somebody that you can trust to take those visions and then break it down to, okay, how do we make this happen? How do I take what I do in business and replicate it? Especially for those that want to build teams. You got to get that figured out before you're just like, hey, I'm putting my name in front of the word team and now I'm just going to bring people on and they're going to be lost.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, wait a second. I've been paying for Zillow leads and I can't figure out why they didn't convert. Did you properly train that person or set up the system around how they're going to convert like you would, right? Because a lot of people that create teams, our brokerages, were high producing agents to begin with. So they obviously know what they're doing.
Right.
We just need to get it down on paper and have it be recreated. I mean, you guys have expanded across a couple different states now, right?
So we did. We partnered up with some really incredible humans and we're building teams all across the country. We were fortunate enough to partner with a brokerage that allowed us that opportunity. What we realized is if we weren't necessarily really deep involved in those teams, things started to kind of back up and there was some loss. So another thing that you and I just talked about is having those clear expectations, because if you don't have clear expectations, the person's set up for failure, right? So I feel like that was a downside on us. And we ended up disbanding those teams because it just didn't make sense to move forward without the right people in the seats. You can be an incredible sales professional. It doesn't mean you can manage people. And that's so important when you're building teams. So we've decided to kind of back off on across the country right now and build locally. So we have a really incredible team here. We're going to get some offices here locally. We're hoping to have an additional 3 offices within like the next year and a half here where we can still be there.
Yeah.
No, Jack is not a licensed agent. So he runs it as a business versus there's so many agents that don't run their business as the CEO of it. Mm-hmm. They have to produce to keep it going, and then they get stuck in it, and then your people kind of get lost too because they don't have enough time for them. So yeah, building locally so that way Jack and I can be at those places helping to train those team leads on how to be a leader, how to manage people, because just because you sell a lot of houses doesn't mean you can build a team.
Probably it's one of the number one reasons that Stat Solutions is around, right? Because they don't, and even if they're not good at it, sometimes they just don't want to do it. They're like, I just want to be the rainmaker. I want to bring in houses. I want to do all these things. I don't want to manage agents. I don't want to hold them accountable. I don't want to do all that stuff. And that's fine. Yeah. Then find the right person in the right seat to do.
There it is. Yeah.
I mean, we've got so many people in the industry right now that are kind of shrinking back. Their production's lower. They're scared. So growing additional offices right now, like, can you give some tips around that, or like what's making you grow versus shrink back?
Yeah. So there's a lot of agents out there scared right now. They don't know where their next lead is coming from. And with us, we don't call them leads, we call them opportunities. They don't know where their next opportunity is. Jack has built a business based around online lead generation, how to have those conversations, not typical sales training. So our sales training sounds so much different than the typical out there sales training for real estate agents. We're still growing. Last month with 7 producing agents, we put 30 under contract, which still isn't enough for us, but that's crazy with a lot of teams. So we already know how to have the tough conversations. Our clients understand what the process looks like to work together. And if they're not comfortable working together, that's okay. We're gonna find the clients that it does make sense to work with. We do value our time. We teach our agents to value their time and how to have tough conversations. Back to that clear as kind, you need to set clear expectations. I was on a listening appointment with one of my teammates yesterday. We had clear expectations for next steps. And there's so many times that agents get so excited that they forget to set up, okay, what does this look like moving forward? And then client thinks one thing, agent thinks the other thing. Everybody has the worst case scenario in their head, right? Especially agents.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario in their head. So truly educating our agents so they can go out there and educate their buyers and sellers is so important now more than ever, especially with the nonsense on the news and social media is a disaster. It's the worst of the worst out there. So it's understanding where people are coming from and meeting them there and helping educate them on what that moves for. Whether you're working with clients or you're bringing on teammates, you need to see where they're coming from. What is the gap in their business and how can you leverage it? And then holding accountable to that.
And probably just listening to them, right? Like I feel like so many of us we're holding ourselves to a script or these things we need to do, and you're not actually listening to the questions you need to ask or the answers you need to provide, whether it's an agent or a client.
We go in with our own agenda. And when we go in with our own agenda, people love to talk about themselves. Listen to them. You're going to learn so much and then be able to communicate so much better and have quality conversation over just spouting out words.
Our move last year here to Texas, obviously I've been licensed in California, I've been licensed in Colorado. I've never done deals in Texas. I live and breathe real estate. Like that's all I do. But I didn't understand the transaction process here. And it was so enlightening to me because my assumptions about how it was supposed to go were totally off and I didn't understand the process. So I didn't know what to ask and I wasn't educated either. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, just telling agents to really just get back to the basics and make sure that you're educating your client on how it's supposed to go, what the expectations are, because regardless of how many houses they've built or how many transactions they've done, they might not know the way that you do as a team too. So it's so amazing. Well, I'm so excited to hear that you guys are continuing to grow and prosper and you guys are such an amazing team. So it's really exciting.
We have a lot of fun. And that's, we had a team meeting this morning and I said, I may not own this team, but I definitely run it like I do. Like I probably put more effort into this than anybody around. And it's because I believe in it. And the biggest thing is if you're trying to express something you don't believe in, you're never going to convince somebody else of that value.
No, 100% you're not.
Yeah. And then people are so scared to have conversations, true conversations about anything. It can be with your spouse, it can be with a client, it can be with a teammate, it can be with your boss. Again, you build up the worst case scenarios in your head and sometimes we have to have those difficult conversations, but it's usually tough love at the end of it. We have high expectations to hold them accountable to what it is that they are committing to themselves and their faith.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. We're totally in line with that because I'm like, you have to be honest and have these tough conversations with the people around you. Otherwise, it's not going to be successful in the long run.
Right.
So, all right, we're going to pivot a little bit and I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Sarah, what is your superpower?
So I feel like it's not much of a pivot. It's honestly managing people. It's truly managing people. Like some people come into being in leadership naturally, and that's just something I've always done. I've always been that person. It doesn't matter if it's not my job. I'm going to take it on and I'm going to help guide that person. So managing people and really understanding people, I can typically read a person very, very quickly. And it's just based upon life experiences. I moved a lot as a child. I went to 9 different schools. I had to be the person that learned to fit in quickly or I was in misery. So just truly understanding people and adapting to them very easily. So that way they feel comfortable pretty quickly too. And seeing when something's off. I'm able to see that pretty quickly and call it out to try to repair or get it out.
That's such an amazing superpower to have. Like you're like,
it is.
My spidey senses are tingling. That's what I tell my team because I feel like we have very similar personalities. My spidey senses are tingling, and I'm usually not wrong. So,
yeah, right. And when you really give your all to those kinds of things, you really start to learn, and people are easier to read than they realize. And you can see the shifts in personality. I can see the shifts in teammates when things are off. I can see the shift in having a conversation with somebody pretty quickly. And even from an interview, I'm pretty spot on with how somebody functions pretty quickly and what makes sense and what doesn't.
So exciting. Well, Sarah, thanks so much for jumping on the podcast with me today. If anybody wants to reach out just to get to know you or the team or Jack, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so all over social media. I typically don't choose to be all over social media. Jack helps choose that for me. If anybody that follows Jack Blair, you'll see that. But we're the True Advantage team. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. I am 3_ Sarah, SARA_tops. Trying Sarah Tops, 3 Sarah Tops. And then check out Jack Blair too. He's way more entertaining than I am.
You're both pretty dang entertaining, but he's definitely much more on social media.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, we love connecting with people. You know, we love helping others out. If there's something that we're doing that you want to learn more about, I'm all in, and best believe I'm going to try to learn from you too.
Amazing. Well, thanks for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.
You too, Jen. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.